All right, ready to dive into something pretty cool. The future of Morocco's ports. You guys sent us a report outlining their strategy all the way to 2030, and
It's ambitious.
it's a lot, yeah. So this isn't some light reading. This is a deep dive into the National Port Strategy 2030, straight from Morocco's Ministry of Equipment and Transport,
And straight from the source.
right out of the gate. One of the things that really struck me is that they predict port traffic could triple by 2030, going from around 92 million tons of goods handled in 2010 to a potential 370 million. Can you believe that?
That's a huge increase. So to kind of understand that, we have to start with a picture of where Moroccan ports stand today.
Yeah, paint us a picture. What's the current landscape like?
So Morocco actually already has a pretty diverse port system. They've got 13 ports for external trade, 10 regional fishing ports, 9 for local fishing, and 6 pleasure ports. In 2010, these ports handled 98% of the country's external trade, and over 24,500 ships called in.
Yeah, that's a lot of activity.
It is.
It sounds like they're already a significant player in the maritime world.
They are. And over the past decade, they've been investing about 3 billion dirhams every year into the sector. But this 2030 strategy is a real shift. It's a move to capitalize on global trends and position themselves for even greater growth.
So what's driving this tripling of traffic? Why do they think they can handle 3 times as much in the coming years?
Well, there are a few key things going on here. One is location. Morocco is really close to Europe, and that makes it ideal for something called nearshoring.
Nearshoring, I'm not familiar with that term.
So nearshoring is basically when companies move their operations closer to their customers. With rising transportation costs and all supply chain issues we've been seeing globally, Morocco becomes a really attractive option for European businesses that might want to relocate or expand.
So being right there next to Europe, that gives them a competitive edge.
Yeah.
But it's not just about location, is it?
No, there are also proactive policies that they're implementing all across various sectors like energy, phosphates, logistics, fishing, agriculture. These national strategies are directly linked to the anticipated increase in port activity.
Okay, so give me an example of how that works. How do those types of strategies actually translate to needing their ports more?
Okay, so for example, their energy strategy. Their energy strategy predicts a massive increase in coal traffic, potentially reaching 29 million tons, which will require new ports and terminals. Similarly, their phosphate sector is expected to grow as well, which will also require expanded port capacity for all that phosphate and the derivatives.
So it's like this domino effect where national level policies
Yeah.
then create these industry-specific demands that then ripple out to needing more and better infrastructure.
Exactly. And you see that across other sectors, too. For instance, their national logistics strategy aims to boost container traffic, which is going to put more pressure on their ports. And their fishing industry, under their plan Haleyudis, is expected to see a big increase in capacity at fishing ports as well.
Wow, so they're really covering all their bases here. But it's not just expanding what they already have, is it? There was something in the report about organizing these ports into regional hubs.
Yes, that's where it gets interesting. Instead of just expanding what's already there, they're taking a more strategic, almost revolutionary approach by creating 6 specialized regional hubs.
So I'm guessing this hub strategy is all about efficiency and really playing to each region's strengths.
Yeah, you got it. Each hub has a distinct focus, based on what the region is best at doing and the types of cargo it can handle best. It's a much more targeted and streamlined way to manage their growing maritime traffic.
All right, I'm hooked. Let's go through these 6 hubs. First up, we have the Oriental Hub. What's its specialty?
So the Oriental Hub, with the port of Nador at its heart, really focuses on connections to Europe and the Mediterranean, particularly the Maghreb region. It's all about roll-on, roll-off ferries and passenger traffic, facilitating smooth movements of goods and people.
Okay, so it's like the gateway to the Med.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Now, what about the Northwest Hub?
The Northwest Hub, with the renowned Tanger Med port. This stands guard over the Strait of Gibraltar. This is going to be a powerhouse for container transshipment as well as those roll-off ferries, making it a very crucial link in global trade routes.
Tangermet, that already has a pretty big reputation in the maritime world.
It does.
I'm guessing this strategy is really trying to solidify that.
We're looking to cement it as a global transshipment hub.
Right. Let's move down the coast a bit to the Kenitra Casablanca hub.
This one is gonna be busy.
What's going on down there?
This is all about containerized goods. Casablanca will specialize in high-value added unit goods, while a new port in Kenitra will handle the non-unit goods. They're basically dividing and conquering to optimize flow and minimize congestion.
Very clever. What about the Abda Dukhala hub?
Think industrial powerhouse. This one revolves around the port of Jorf Lasfar and specializes in chemicals, steel, and energy, capitalizing on Morocco's natural resources and industrial capabilities.
So leveraging their existing strengths.
Yeah.
Got it. What about the Souss Massa hub?
The Souss Massa hub features the Agadir Port Complex. It's a bit of an all-rounder. They're focusing on container traffic, cruise tourism, and fishing.
That's an interesting mix. And lastly, we have the Southern Ports hub. This sounds a bit more remote.
It is. What's their focus?
So the Southern Ports hub, it includes the ports of Tantan, Laayoune, and Dakhla. It plays a vital role in fishing, export logistics, and regional development, particularly in that less developed part of the country.
So each hub has a really specific role to play in this grand strategy. It's like they've orchestrated this maritime symphony, each hub playing its part to create this harmonious and efficient whole.
That's a great way to put it. But assigning these roles is just the first step. The report also outlines some major transformations within each of these hubs to actually make this happen.
Okay, now you're talking. What kind of transformations are in store? Well, for starters, they're going to completely transform the port of Tangerville. It's going to become a dedicated cruise and pleasure port, catering to that growing tourism sector. And as we mentioned, Tangermed is going to undergo further expansion, becoming an even bigger player on the global stage.
Makes sense. Build on those strengths. What about the other hubs, though? Any of the big changes planned?
Oh, yeah. There are plans to create a brand new port, Nador Westmed, which could specialize in energy or transshipment. And the historic inner port of Mohammedia, that's going to be moved away from the city center, a process they call externalization.
Why move it away from the city? Is that just about space, or is there something else going on there?
Well, it's actually a trend you see in a lot of ports around the world. By moving the industrial activity away from urban areas, you minimize congestion, you can reduce the environmental impact, create a more sustainable and harmonious relationship between the port and the city.
So it's not just expansion, it's also taking into account those environmental and social implications.
Precisely. And in Mohammedia's case, they're looking to repurpose that inner port area for tourism and leisure activities. It's a win-win. More efficient port system and also enhancing the quality of life for the residents.
I like that. What other transformations are on the horizon?
They're going to develop Kenitra Atlantique. It's going to be a state-of-the-art bulk and conventional cargo port. It's strategically located to serve the entire region between Tangermed and Casablanca, which is going to take some of that pressure off those major hubs.
So it's like a whole new hub for bulk cargo.
Exactly.
Strategically positioned.
Yeah.
And to handle those increasing volumes of energy and industrial cargo, they're even planning to build a new bulk port south of Safi. This is starting to sound really ambitious. Makes me wonder, how are they going to pay for all of this?
It doesn't come cheap. The report estimates they'll need 74 billion dirhams over the next 20 years.
Wow. Where's all that money coming from?
It's going to be a combination of public and private investment, including public-private partnerships, and this is where their open planning approach comes in.
Open planning. What does that mean?
Basically, it means they're not set on every little detail. They understand the world changes. They're building in flexibility to adjust the strategy as needed based on demand, operator strategies, and national or international policies.
So it's acknowledging the uncertainties of long-term planning,
Exactly.
building in some wiggle room,
Exactly.
and to help them navigate those uncertainties, they're also using something called warning indicators.
Yes,
It sounds almost like a maritime early warning system.
it kind of is.
What are they?
They're linked to things like energy decisions, cruise tourism policies, industrial development, agricultural trends. By monitoring these indicators, they can anticipate disruptions and adjust as needed.
So staying ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
This is really impressive.
It is. But beyond the technical details, I think what's really exciting is the potential impact of this on Morocco's economy and people.
Yeah, let's dig into those impacts in our next segment. I'm really eager to learn more about how this ambitious port strategy could reshape Morocco.
Happy to dive in.
All right, we'll be right back after a quick break to continue our deep dive into Morocco's port strategy. All right, so before the break, we were getting into the potential impact of all this on Morocco's economy and its people.
Yeah, it's interesting because it really goes beyond just the ports and cargo. It could reshape whole regions of Morocco.
That's what I think makes this deep dive so interesting. It's not just about the numbers. It's about understanding how this is going to affect people's lives.
Exactly. If you connect this strategy to the big picture, you see this vision of integrated development,
Hmm.
where the port infrastructure is linked to industrial zones, transportation networks, even urban planning.
So they're creating these economic ecosystems around the ports.
Precisely. And that's where you see the potential for jobs and economic growth. But of course, with changes this big, you also have to think about the challenges. How will this affect existing ways of life, especially in those historic port cities?
That's a good point. Progress is great, but not if it comes at the expense of people's livelihoods. Does the report talk about these potential downsides at all?
They do mention the need for careful planning and taking into account those social and environmental impacts. They talk about minimizing disruption and making sure local communities actually benefit from these developments. But we'll have to see how that actually plays out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch how this unfolds. But let's talk about how they're actually going to do all this. They have this vision, but what's the plan to make it happen?
That's the key question, isn't it? The report goes into a lot of detail about the implementation strategy. One thing they focus on is specialization, not just at the hub level, but even within individual ports. They're even thinking about relocating certain types of cargo to different ports to make things more efficient.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Think about Casablanca. Right now, it handles a ton of cargo, including bulk goods like coal and phosphates. But the plan is for it to focus more on containerized cargo and high-value goods. It'll be more of a modern logistics hub.
So where does all that bulk cargo go?
That's where that new port south of Safi comes in. It's specifically designed for those bulk goods, especially those related to energy and industry. By shifting that stuff away from Casablanca, they free up space and make things run smoother.
Like a giant game of Tetris, moving all the pieces around.
Yeah, I like that. And you see that kind of thinking throughout the report. They're really trying to design a system that is adaptable and resilient.
Which reminds me, they talk a lot about sustainability too. They're clearly thinking about the environmental impact of all this.
Absolutely. They want to minimize the footprint of all these port activities. They talk about moving certain traffic flows, especially anything hazardous, away from cities to improve air and water quality.
Yeah, and it's not just about moving things away. It's about integrating the ports better into the urban fabric, like with Kangarville and Mohammedia.
Right. They want to create spaces that are enjoyable for everyone.
And it's not just about cities either. They want to make sure this development benefits the whole country.
Exactly. Especially those less developed regions, those ports could really bring investment and jobs to those areas.
It sounds like they're really thinking about how to create a better future for all of Morocco.
They are, and that's what makes this strategy so compelling. They're not just reacting, they're actively shaping the future.
So we've talked about the current state of Moroccan ports, the things driving their growth, the 6 regional hubs, the changes they're planning, the financial side, the implementation strategy, the potential impacts. Anything else you think we should highlight?
I think it's important to remember that this isn't a rigid plan. It's more like a roadmap. They know things can change, and they emphasize the need to adapt as they go. Remember those warning indicators we talked about? That's a big part of their approach.
Right, so they're not just setting a course and hoping for the best.
Exactly. They're building in ways to adjust as things change.
That kind of adaptability is so important these days.
It is.
Makes me wonder what this all means for Moroccan ports after 2030. The report focuses on that time frame, but what about the long term?
That's a great question. While the report doesn't specifically address that, if you look at the trends and ambitions it lays out, you can imagine a future where Morocco's ports are not just important regionally, but globally.
So they want to be major players on the world stage.
Exactly. And with their location, their focus on innovation, and their willingness to adapt, I think they have a good shot.
This has been a fascinating look into the future of Morocco's ports.
It has.
I feel like I could talk about this for hours.
It's a really interesting topic. I think the key thing for you today is that Morocco is going all in on this. They see their ports as key to their future.
Well said. I think we've covered just about everything. We've explored their vision, their plans, the challenges they face, and their potential. It's been a great deep dive.
It has.
You now have all the knowledge you need to impress your friends with your insights into Morocco's maritime future.
Exactly.
You can talk about regional hubs and nearshoring and open planning like a pro. And who knows, maybe this will inspire you to visit Morocco someday and see all this firsthand.
That would be great.
It would. But for now, we'll have to settle for the knowledge we've gained. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Until next time.
And remember, if you ever want to explore another fascinating topic, you know where to find us. We're always here to help you dive deep. As we've been talking about this, I keep thinking about all the what-if questions. Like, what if this all actually works? What could this look like for Morocco years down the road?
It is exciting to think about the possibilities. Imagine a Morocco with ports that are just bustling with activity, seamlessly connected to global markets, driving economic growth. You could see new industries emerging, jobs being created, coastal communities that are thriving.
And it's not just economic, right? This plan seems to really care about sustainability and social responsibility, too.
Right. If it's done right, it could create a much better future for everyone in Morocco. Think about cleaner ports, healthy coastal ecosystems, and communities that are really engaged in and benefiting from this transformation.
It's a really cool vision. But like with any big plan, there are bound to be challenges. What are some of the things that could get in the way?
Well, one challenge is definitely going to be the money. Remember, this is a huge investment, 74 billion dirhams. Getting that kind of money, especially with all the economic uncertainty in the world, is going to be tough.
True. And even if they get the money, actually pulling this off is going to take a ton of coordination and expertise. There's always a chance of delays, mismanagement, or just unexpected problems.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And then you have all those things they can't control, like global trade patterns are always shifting. Geopolitics can really throw a wrench in things, too. So this success of this strategy depends on a lot of things outside of Morocco's control.
It's a good reminder that nothing is ever guaranteed. But it does seem like they're really emphasizing adaptability and flexibility. Like those warning indicators, maybe those will help them deal with the unexpected stuff.
Right, that open planning approach, along with their focus on monitoring and evaluation, those are going to be crucial. They're not just setting a course and hoping for the best. They're building in ways to adjust to whatever happens.
That's what I think is so cool about all this. They're not pretending it's going to be easy. They're embracing the fact that things are going to change.
Absolutely. They're building a system that can actually evolve.
Which I think is a lesson for all of us, really,
Right.
whether we're talking about ports or anything else. Being able to adapt is so important.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, this has been an incredible look at the future of Morocco's ports.
It has.
We've talked about their vision, their plans, the challenges, the potential. Really fascinating stuff.
Really interesting.
And now you, dear listener, are basically an expert too.
Yeah.
You've got all the knowledge you need to impress everyone with your insights into Morocco's maritime future.
Go forth and spread the word.
Exactly. You can talk about regional hubs and nearshoring with the best of them. Maybe you'll even be inspired to visit Morocco someday and see it all for yourself.
That would be awesome.
It would. But for now, we'll have to be content with all this incredible knowledge we've gained. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Thanks for having me.
And remember, if you ever want to dive deep into another fascinating topic, you know where to find us. We're always here to explore with you.